Commander Jake Morrison stood in the control room of Luna Station, watching the stars through the thick glass windows. The station floated in space around Earth's moon, serving as humanity's first line of defense against anything that might come from the darkness beyond. Jake had been stationed here for 3 years, and most days were quiet with routine patrols and equipment checks. That morning changed everything when Intelligence Officer Lisa Grant burst through the doors carrying a datapad with shaking hands. Her face was pale and her usual calm demeanor was gone completely. She had been working in the communication center, trying to decode signals from the deep space monitoring stations that humans had secretly placed throughout the solar system. "Commander Morrison, you need to see this right now," Lisa said breathlessly as she handed him the datapad. "Our deep space probes picked up massive fleet movements from the Zephyrian Empire. They're heading straight for Earth with over 500 warships." Jake felt his stomach drop as he read the decoded transmissions. The Zephyrians were one of the most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy, known for conquering entire star systems with overwhelming force. Their ships were massive floating cities armed with plasma weapons that could burn planets to ash. No species had ever successfully resisted them once they decided to attack. "How long do we have?" Jake asked, trying to keep his voice steady while his mind raced through possible defense scenarios. "Based on their current speed and trajectory, approximately 3 months before they reach the outer edge of our solar system," Lisa replied. "Sir, the size of this fleet is unlike anything we've seen in our intelligence reports. They're treating Earth as a major threat, which doesn't make sense given our apparent technological level." Jake immediately activated the emergency communication system that connected Luna Station to Earth's military command centers. Within minutes, Admiral Chris Taylor appeared on the main screen from his office in the Terran Defense Council headquarters, located deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Admiral Taylor was a veteran of humanity's first encounters with hostile alien forces and had been preparing for this possibility for decades. "Admiral, we have a situation," Jake began and quickly briefed Taylor on the incoming Zephyrian fleet. The Admiral's weathered face remained calm, but Jake could see the concern in his eyes. "I'm calling an emergency session of the Defense Council immediately," Admiral Taylor said. "Jake, I want you to compile every bit of intelligence we have on Zephyrian tactics and fleet compositions. Lisa, continue monitoring their communications and see if you can determine their exact intentions." While Lisa returned to her station, Jake gathered the intelligence files that humanity had been collecting for years. Ever since the first disastrous contact with alien raiders 50 years ago, humans had been secretly monitoring galactic communications and studying alien technology. Most alien species believed humans were a primitive race that had barely achieved spaceflight, but that misconception had been humanity's greatest advantage. 2 hours later, Jake found himself in a secure video conference with the most important military leaders on Earth. Admiral Taylor sat at the head of a table surrounded by generals and scientists who had been working in secret programs for decades. Dr. Amanda Brooks, head of the Advanced Warfare Division, appeared on screen from a classified location. "The Zephyrian Empire has never been successfully resisted," General Alex Johnson said grimly. "Their standard tactic is to arrive in overwhelming numbers and demand immediate surrender. Species that resist are completely destroyed as examples. 2 others." Dr. Brooks leaned forward with a slight smile that surprised everyone in the conference. "That's exactly what we've been preparing for," she said confidently. "For 50 years we've been reverse engineering alien technology and developing countermeasures. More importantly, we've been developing weapons and tactics that no alien species has ever encountered." Jake watched as Dr. Brooks activated a holographic display showing humanity's secret military capabilities. The images revealed technologies that seemed impossible even to him despite his security clearance. Weapons platforms disguised as mining stations throughout the asteroid belt. Artificial intelligence systems that could adapt and learn during combat. Nanotechnology that could infiltrate and disable alien ships without being detected. "The aliens think like machines," Dr. Brooks explained. "They follow rigid tactical doctrines based on mathematics and overwhelming force. They've conquered so many species using the same methods that they can't imagine any other way to fight. But humans fight with emotion, creativity, and unpredictability. Admiral Taylor activated another display showing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. "We've been in secret contact with resistance movements on dozens of worlds conquered by the Zephyrians," he said. "They're all waiting for proof that the Empire can be defeated. This invasion isn't just about Earth. It's our chance to liberate the entire galaxy." The room fell silent as the full scope of humanity's plans became clear. Jake realized that Earth's military leaders had been preparing for this moment for decades. They hadn't just been building defenses. They had been planning to use the Empire's own aggression against them. Dr. Kevin Wright from the Psychological Warfare Institute spoke up from his remote location. "We've studied alien behavioral patterns for years," he said. "Most galactic species value honor, efficiency, and hierarchical command structures. They literally cannot understand how humans think and fight. That's going to be their downfall." Jake felt a mixture of excitement and terror as he understood what was really happening. Humanity wasn't preparing to desperately defend Earth against impossible odds. They were preparing to capture an entire alien fleet and use it to spark a galaxy-wide revolution against the Zephyrian Empire. "Commander Morrison," Admiral Taylor said, turning his attention back to Jake. "Luna Station will be our forward observation post. I want you to monitor every detail of their approach and coordinate with our hidden assets throughout the solar system. The aliens think they're coming to conquer a primitive world, but they're actually walking into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history." As the conference ended, Jake looked out at the stars with completely different eyes. Somewhere in that darkness, the largest alien fleet ever assembled was heading toward Earth, expecting an easy victory. But humanity had spent 50 years turning their apparent weakness into an unbeatable advantage. The war was about to begin, but in many ways the aliens had already lost before they fired their first shot. Lisa returned with another decoded message, confirming the fleet's approach trajectory. Jake smiled grimly, knowing that every transmission the aliens sent was giving humans more information to use against them. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force for centuries, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity before. Colonel Ryan Murphy floated in his spacesuit outside what appeared to be a simple mining platform in the asteroid belt. To any observer, it looked like hundreds of other automated mining stations that humans had built to extract resources from the rocky debris orbiting between Mars and Jupiter. But this particular station hid sophisticated plasma cannons and missile launchers capable of destroying ships 10 times its size. Ryan checked his tablet, showing the installation progress across the solar system. Over the past month, his teams had been working around the clock to activate humanity's hidden defense network. Mining platforms became weapon stations. Cargo ships revealed hidden armor and guns. Communication satellites deployed sensor arrays that could track incoming threats across millions of miles. "Colonel Murphy, this is Captain Helen Foster reporting from Ceres Station," came a voice through his helmet radio. Helen was overseeing the most critical part of their preparation, called the Trojan Protocol. The plan required Earth to appear completely defenseless while hiding their real military strength throughout the solar system. "Go ahead, Captain Foster," Ryan replied while his team finished installing the last targeting computer inside the fake mining station. "We've successfully disguised all major military installations as civilian infrastructure," Helen reported. "The lunar defense batteries now look like research stations. The Mars orbital platforms appear to be weather monitoring satellites. Even our main command centers are hidden inside what look like shopping malls and office buildings." Ryan smiled at the cleverness of the deception. While the Zephyrians would expect human military forces to be concentrated around Earth, all the real weapons were scattered throughout the solar system, in places the aliens would never think to look. The asteroid belt alone contained enough hidden firepower to destroy a fleet twice the size of what was approaching. Back on Earth, Dr. Kevin Wright sat in his laboratory deep beneath the Colorado mountains, studying behavioral profiles of every known alien species in the Zephyrian Empire. The Psychological Warfare Institute had been analyzing alien communication patterns, combat doctrines, and decision-making processes for decades. What they discovered gave humanity a crucial advantage. Most galactic species follow completely predictable patterns, Dr. Wright explained to his research team. They value mathematical precision, logical thinking, and rigid command structures. When they encounter a problem, they solve it using established procedures that have worked for thousands of years. Dr. Wright activated a holographic display showing various alien fleet formations and battle tactics. The Zephyrians always attack the same way. They arrive in perfect geometric formations, broadcast surrender demands, and then systematically destroy military targets followed by population centers. It's efficient but completely inflexible. His assistant, Dr. Patricia Davis, looked up from her analysis of alien psychology reports. "What makes humans so different?" she asked. "Humans are chaos personified from their perspective," Dr. Wright replied with a grin. "We make decisions based on emotions. We change tactics in the middle of battle. We use humor, sarcasm, and cultural references that their translators can't process. Most importantly, we see warfare as creative problem-solving rather than mathematical calculation." Meanwhile, Captain Tony Clark was conducting final tests on the communication systems that would be humanity's first line of contact with the alien fleet. His ship, the Defiance, was actually a heavily modified scout vessel, designed to appear weak and insignificant, while carrying the most advanced electronic warfare equipment humans had ever built. "We've loaded the translation systems with every confusing idiom, joke, and cultural reference in human history," Tony reported to Admiral Taylor during their daily briefing. "When the aliens demand our surrender, we're going to respond with things like, 'Welcome to Earth now, get off my lawn and come and take it.' Their computers will waste precious time trying to decode what they think are military communications." Admiral Taylor reviewed the final deployment orders from his command center. Every piece of humanity's plan was falling into place with precision that would have impressed even the logical Zephyrians. But unlike alien tactics, this plan was designed to adapt and change based on whatever the enemy did. "Our secret contacts throughout the galaxy are reporting increased resistance activity," Admiral Taylor announced during the final planning session. "Word is spreading that someone is finally going to challenge the Empire. Dozens of conquered species are preparing to revolt the moment they see proof that the Zephyrians can be defeated." Dr. Amanda Brooks joined the briefing from her secure laboratory where she had been putting finishing touches on humanity's most secret weapons. "The nano-infiltrators are ready for deployment," she reported. "These microscopic devices can attach to alien ship hulls, penetrate their systems, and cause systematic failures that will look like random technical problems." The nano-infiltrators were perhaps humanity's most innovative creation. Unlike conventional weapons that destroyed things, these tiny machines were designed to capture and control. They could disable weapon systems, disrupt communications, and even take control of entire ships without the crew realizing what was happening until it was too late. Colonel Sarah Kim called in from the deep space monitoring stations to provide the latest intelligence on the approaching fleet. "The Zephyrians are maintaining standard attack formation and speed," she reported. "They're sending routine communications back to their home worlds describing Earth as a minor threat that will be easily conquered." Everyone in the command center smiled at that news. The aliens' confidence was exactly what humanity needed. An overconfident enemy would stick to their standard tactics, making them predictable and vulnerable to the traps being prepared throughout the solar system. As the final week of preparation began, Ryan Murphy stood on the observation deck of Luna station looking out at Earth. The planet appeared peaceful and defenseless, with normal civilian traffic moving between orbital stations and the surface. Commercial ships continued their regular cargo runs while passenger vessels carried tourists to the Moon and Mars colonies. But Ryan knew the truth. Hidden throughout that seemingly normal activity were the most sophisticated military forces humanity had ever assembled. Every cargo ship could transform into a warship in minutes. Every civilian station contained weapons that could destroy alien cruisers. Every communication satellite was actually part of an intelligence network that would coordinate the defense of not just Earth, but the liberation of dozens of enslaved worlds. The Zephyrian Empire had spent centuries perfecting the art of conquest through overwhelming force and mathematical precision. They had never encountered an enemy that fought with creativity, emotion, and the willingness to turn conventional warfare completely upside down. In less than 2 months, they would arrive expecting to add another conquered species to their empire. Instead, they would discover that humans had already won the war before the first shot was fired. Fleet Admiral Zexthor stood on the command bridge of the massive Zephyrian flagship, watching the primitive star system grow larger on the main viewing screen. His four eyes studied the tactical displays showing the positions of his 500 warships arranged in perfect geometric formations that had conquered countless worlds throughout the galaxy. Each ship was the size of a small city, bristling with plasma cannons and protected by quantum shields that could deflect any known weapon. The humans had achieved faster-than-light communication only recently, according to intelligence reports, making them one of the most primitive species the Empire had ever encountered. Zexthor expected this conquest to be completed within a few hours at most. The standard protocol was simple: arrive in overwhelming force, broadcast surrender demands, destroy any resistance quickly and efficiently, add another species to the Empire's collection of conquered worlds. Admiral, we are detecting minimal defensive capabilities in the human system, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Vexmar. A few orbital stations around their homeworld and some scattered mining operations in the asteroid regions. No significant military vessels or weapon platforms visible on our sensors. Zexthor clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Maintain standard attack formation and broadcast surrender demands in all galactic languages. These humans will learn that resistance to the Empire is futile, just like every other species we have encountered. But something unexpected happened when the Zephyrian fleet reached the edge of the human solar system. Instead of the terrified silence or desperate military transmissions, they usually received a small human ship approach their massive fleet. The vessel was tiny compared to their capital ships and appeared to be some kind of scout craft, with minimal weapons and shields. Incoming transmission from the human vessel, reported the communications officer. They are requesting to speak with our fleet commander. Zexthor was puzzled by this development. Most species either surrendered immediately or attacked with everything they had. No one had ever simply asked to talk. Put them through, he ordered while his tactical computers analyzed the approaching ship for hidden weapons or unusual technology. The main screen flickered and showed a human male wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. He had short brown hair and calm blue eyes that showed no sign of fear despite facing the largest fleet in galactic history. "Good morning, Admiral," the human said with a slight smile. "I'm Captain Tony Clark of the Earth vessel Defiance. Welcome to our solar system, though. I have to say your timing could be better." Zexthor was confused by the casual tone and strange phrasing. His translation computers were having difficulty processing several words and phrases that seemed to have multiple meanings. "I am Fleet Admiral Zexthor of the Zephyrian Empire," he responded using the standard conquest protocol. "You will surrender immediately and prepare your world for occupation or face complete destruction." Captain Clark scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Well, Admiral, that's quite an offer, but I'm afraid we're going to have to pass. You see, we've got a saying here on Earth. Come and take it. Also, welcome to Earth. Now get off my lawn. Oh, and one more thing. You picked the wrong planet to mess with, buddy." The translation computers went into overdrive trying to decode what sounded like threats, but used words referring to plants and household property. Zexthor had never encountered anything like this in centuries of conquest. "Explain the meaning of these communications," he demanded while his officers scrambled to understand what the humans were actually saying. "Sorry, Admiral, but some things just don't translate well," Tony replied cheerfully. "How about we discuss this over dinner sometime? I know a great little place that serves the best barbecue ribs in the galaxy, assuming you folks eat food and don't just absorb energy through your skin or whatever." While the Zephyrian fleet wasted valuable time trying to decode human idioms and cultural references, something else was happening that their sensors completely missed. Thousands of microscopic devices had launched from hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, and were now attaching themselves to the hulls of alien ships. The nano-infiltrators were so small and moved so slowly that the Zephyrian detection, systems designed to spot massive energy signatures and conventional weapons, ignored them completely. "Admiral, we are detecting some minor technical difficulties with several ships in the fleet," reported the engineering officer. "Random system glitches and communication disruptions. Nothing serious but unusual for this many ships to experience. Problems simultaneously." Zexthor dismissed the report as coincidence while focusing on the confusing human transmission. "Captain Clark, you will cease these incomprehensible communications and surrender your world immediately." We have over 500 warships capable of destroying your entire planet. Tony Clark's expression became more serious, but he still didn't show any sign of fear. Admiral, I understand you've had success with that approach in the past, but things work a little differently here. We humans have a saying, it ain't over until the fat lady sings. Also, we don't negotiate with terrorists. And just so we're clear, this is our house and you weren't invited. The translation computers were now displaying error messages as they tried to process references to overweight female vocalists and residential property ownership. Zexthor was growing frustrated with the delays when his tactical officer reported something even more disturbing. Admiral, we're receiving reports from reconnaissance ships throughout the system. The asteroids' mining stations and civilian installations are not what they appear to be. Energy readings suggest hidden weapons and defensive systems far beyond what intelligence reports indicated. Before Zexthor could process this information properly, Captain Clark's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, I hope you've enjoyed our little chat, but it's time to get down to business. You came here expecting to find a primitive world, ready for conquest. Instead, you found something your empire has never encountered before. You found humans who refuse to surrender, and who've had 50 years to prepare for this exact moment. The main screen flickered, showing tactical displays of the human solar system. What had appeared to be simple mining platforms were revealing sophisticated weapons systems. Cargo ships were transforming into warships. Civilian stations were deploying defensive shields and missile batteries. The entire system was turning into a massive trap with the Zephyrian fleet caught in the center. Impossible, Zexthor breathed as his sensors showed the true extent of human military capabilities. Our intelligence reports indicated a primitive species with minimal technology. Tony Clark smiled grimly. That's the thing about intelligence, Admiral. Sometimes it's wrong and sometimes it's deliberately misleading. We've been monitoring your communications for decades and we knew exactly what information to feed your spies. You thought you were coming to conquer Earth, but actually you're participating in the liberation of the galaxy. Alarm signals began, sounding throughout the Zephyrian flagship as systems throughout the fleet started experiencing mysterious failures. Communications between ships became intermittent. Weapons systems shut down randomly. Navigation computers began displaying incorrect information. The nano-infiltrators were spreading through the alien fleet like a virus designed specifically to exploit their rigid, centralized command structure. All ships report status immediately, Zexthor ordered, but received only confused and contradictory responses. His perfectly organized fleet was descending into chaos without a single shot being fired by either side. Captain Clark's final message was simple and direct. Admiral Zexthor, you came here to demonstrate the power of your empire. Instead, you're about to discover why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We don't just fight to win, we fight to set everyone free. The Zephyrian Empire attacked Earth with mathematical precision exactly as their tactical manuals prescribed. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit, striking what their sensors identified as major military installations and population centers. The bombardment was devastating and efficient, creating massive explosions that could be seen from space. Admiral Zexthor watched with satisfaction as his fleet systematically destroyed the primitive human defenses, but Commander Sam Peters sat in the real human command center buried 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean in the Mariana Trench, watching the alien attack with growing excitement. Every target the Zephyrians destroyed was either empty, a carefully constructed decoy, or actually served to activate hidden systems throughout the solar system. The aliens were literally building humanity's victory with each successful strike. Fikes. One is proceeding perfectly, Sam reported to Admiral Taylor through the quantum communication network that connected all hidden human facilities. The aliens have destroyed 17 fake military bases, 6 empty cities, and 43 decoy installations. Every strike is triggering our response protocols exactly as planned. The Zephyrian fleet had been so focused on their target list that they failed to notice mining stations throughout the asteroid belt were shedding their disguises and revealing massive weapons platforms. Captain Maria Gonzalez commanded the asteroid defense network from her flagship, hidden inside what appeared to be a large rocky asteroid. Her weapons could cut through alien shields like paper, but more importantly, They could prevent the Zephyrian fleet from retreating back to their home territory. All asteroid stations report ready for Phase 2, Maria announced as her tactical display showed over 200 hidden weapons platforms surrounding the alien fleet. We have them completely cut off from any escape route. They walked right into the trap. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Nick Barnes was coordinating the nano-infiltrator systems that had been spreading through the alien fleet for hours. The microscopic devices had penetrated every major Zephyrian ship and were now causing systematic failures that the aliens interpreted as technical malfunctions rather than enemy action. Nanosystems are reporting full penetration of the enemy fleet, Nick reported from his control station. We have access to their communications, navigation, and weapons systems. The aliens still don't realize they're being attacked by our infiltrators. They think their ships are just breaking down. The Zephyrian tactical doctrine assumed that enemies would fight using conventional weapons and strategies. They had never encountered an opponent who could disable their ships without firing a shot, or take control of their systems while remaining completely invisible to their sensors. Their rigid command structure became a liability when communications between ships became unreliable, and orders from Fleet Command were randomly altered by human infiltration systems. Dr. Rachel Kim was conducting the psychological warfare campaign from a facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her team had spent years studying alien behavior patterns and developing broadcasts specifically designed to trigger confusion and panic among the various species forced to serve in the Zephyrian military. Psychological warfare protocols are showing remarkable effectiveness, Rachel reported to the command center. We're broadcasting messages that appear to be random human chatter, but contain carefully designed psychological triggers. The aliens are experiencing increasing levels of stress, confusion, and doubt about their mission. The broadcasts seemed harmless to human ears, but were devastating to alien psychology. Casual jokes about the weather contained embedded suggestions that made alien soldiers question their orders. Music with certain frequencies triggered anxiety responses in species with sensitive hearing. Even simple conversations about human food and culture were designed to make the aliens realize they were fighting people with families, hopes, and dreams rather than abstract military targets. Fleet Admiral Zexthor found his perfect mathematical conquest descending into incomprehensible chaos. Ships throughout his fleet were experiencing random system failures. Communications between vessels were becoming increasingly unreliable. His subordinate commanders were reporting confusion, fear, and even cases of mutiny among troops from conquered species who had been forced to serve in the Zephyrian military. Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from several alien crew members who want to defect to the human side, reported his communications officer with obvious confusion. They're claiming the humans have offered them freedom and citizenship in something called the Terran Liberation Alliance. Zexthor couldn't understand how the primitive humans were causing such problems for his technologically superior fleet. According to all tactical analysis, the conquest should have been completed within hours. Instead, his ships were trapped in the solar system, unable to retreat and increasingly unable to fight effectively. Captain Tony Clark appeared on communication screens throughout the Zephyrian fleet with a message that finally revealed the scope of humanity's deception. Admiral Zexthor and brave soldiers of the various species serving in the Empire fleet, you came here believing you were conducting a routine conquest of a primitive world. Instead, you've become participants in the liberation of the galaxy. The broadcast continued with Tony standing in what was clearly a sophisticated military command center, rather than the primitive facilities the aliens had expected to find. For 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We've studied your tactics, learned your weaknesses, and most importantly, we've been in contact with resistance movements throughout your empire. Every species you've conquered remembers what freedom feels like, and they're all waiting for proof that the empire can be defeated. Admiral Zexthor realized with growing horror that his fleet had been completely outmaneuvered by an enemy he had underestimated in every possible way. The humans hadn't just defended their world. They had turned the entire conquest attempt into a trap designed to capture his fleet and use it to spark galaxy-wide revolution. Commander Sam Peters activated the final phase of the human plan from his deep ocean command center. All units, this is command. Execute Operation Liberation. Show them what humans are really capable of. Throughout the solar system, hidden human forces revealed themselves in their full strength. The asteroid belt erupted with weapons fire that systematically disabled Zephyrian ships without destroying them. Mining platforms launched boarding pods filled with human marines ready to accept alien surrenders. Communication satellites began broadcasting messages of hope and freedom to every conquered world in the galaxy. The war that the Zephyrian Empire thought they were starting had indeed been won before they arrived, but not through superior firepower or advanced technology. Humanity had won through creativity, adaptability, and the understanding that true victory meant liberating the oppressed rather than simply defeating an enemy. Admiral Zexthor, "This is Admiral Taylor of the Terran Defense Forces," came a final transmission to the crippled alien flagship. "Your fleet is now under human control. Your weapons are disabled, your communications are compromised, and your ships are surrounded. But we're not here to destroy you. We're here to offer you and your people something your empire has forgotten. We're offering you the chance to choose freedom over tyranny and hope over fear." Captain Joe Martinez stood on the bridge of the massive Zephyrian flagship that had been renamed Freedom's Dawn after its crew voted to join the human cause. The ship that had arrived to conquer Earth was now broadcasting messages of liberation to oppressed worlds throughout the galaxy. Joe looked out through the command windows at a fleet that had been transformed from an instrument of tyranny into a force for galactic freedom. 6 months had passed since the Zephyrian fleet's capture, and the galaxy was already changing in ways no one had imagined possible. The ships that had been designed to spread fear and oppression were now delivering medical supplies, food, and weapons to resistance movements on dozens of worlds. Former enemies worked alongside human crews, learning that cooperation was more powerful than conquest. Commander Patricia Davis managed the conversion of Zephyrian warships into humanitarian vessels from her new position as Director of Galactic Operations. Her office was located on a former Imperial dreadnought that now served as a mobile hospital, bringing medical care to worlds that had been neglected by the Empire for centuries. "We've successfully liberated 17 star systems in the past month," Patricia reported during the daily briefing with Earth Command. "The local populations are embracing democratic governments, and many are requesting to join the Terran Liberation Alliance. Word is spreading faster than we ever expected." The alliance had grown from a desperate human plan into a galaxy-wide movement that included hundreds of species who had been waiting for someone to prove that the Empire could be defeated. Each successful liberation inspired more worlds to revolt, creating a cascade effect that the rigid Imperial government couldn't stop or even understand. Dr. Kevin Wright had established the Galactic Psychology Institute on the former Imperial capital ship to study how different species could work together effectively. His research was helping humans understand alien cultures while teaching other species about human concepts like individual freedom, democratic government, and personal choice. The most interesting discovery is how similar all intelligent species really are, Kevin explained to a mixed crew of humans and former Imperial soldiers. "Everyone wants to make their own choices about their lives. Everyone wants to protect their families and communities. Everyone dreams of a better future for their children. The Empire succeeded by making people forget these basic desires." Earth General Alex Johnson had been promoted to the new position of Galactic Ambassador, tasked with coordinating the liberation efforts and establishing diplomatic relations with newly freed worlds. His office received hundreds of messages every day from species asking for help in overthrowing their imperial governors and establishing free governments. "The momentum is unstoppable," Alex reported to the Terran Council during their weekly session. 3 more Imperial sector governors have been overthrown this week. The Empire's military is deserting in massive numbers as soldiers realize they're fighting to oppress people just like themselves. We estimate complete Imperial collapse within 2 years. The former Fleet Admiral Zexthor sat in a comfortable detention facility on Luna Station awaiting trial for war crimes, while also serving as an advisor to human military planners. His knowledge of Imperial tactics and fleet movements had proved invaluable in coordinating the liberation campaign. More surprisingly, he had become one of the most effective advocates for galactic freedom after witnessing how humans treated their former enemies. "I commanded that fleet for 30 years, believing we were bringing order and civilization to primitive worlds, Zexthor explained during one of his regular interviews with human historians. But humans showed me that what we called civilization was actually slavery and what we called order was actually oppression. I spent my life serving an empire that destroyed everything I thought I was protecting. Captain Tony Clark continued to serve as humanity's primary diplomatic contact with alien species throughout the galaxy. His ship, the Defiance, had become famous as the vessel that first confused the Imperial fleet with human humor and cultural references. Tony now used those same communication skills to help newly liberated worlds understand democratic principles and individual rights. The hardest part isn't defeating the Empire militarily, Tony explained to a group of former Imperial citizens learning about democratic government. The hardest part is helping people remember what freedom feels like after generations of being told exactly what to think and do. But every species has that spark of independence buried somewhere inside. Humans just help them remember it exists. Admiral Taylor stood in the war room of the new Galactic Liberation Command, watching tactical displays that showed the Empire shrinking day by day. Red zones marking Imperial control were being replaced by green zones representing free worlds faster than his staff could update the maps. The war that had begun with 500 alien ships approaching Earth had become the largest liberation movement in galactic history. Phase 3 of the Liberation Campaign is ahead of schedule, reported Colonel Ryan Murphy, who now coordinated military operations across multiple star systems. The Empire's remaining fleets are scattered and demoralized. Most Imperial soldiers are surrendering without a fight when they realize we offer them citizenship and freedom, rather than destruction. Dr. Amanda Brooks had established research stations throughout liberated space to study Imperial technology and develop new innovations that would benefit all species in the growing alliance. Her greatest discovery was that most Imperial technology had been deliberately designed to limit what conquered peoples could achieve, ensuring they remained dependent on their oppressors. We're finding that every species in the galaxy is far more capable than the Empire allowed them to believe. Amanda explained to the Galactic Council that now included representatives from over 50 liberated worlds. The Empire's greatest weapon wasn't their ships or guns. It was convincing everyone that resistance was hopeless and freedom was impossible. On the 5th anniversary of the Empire's failed invasion of Earth, Commander Jake Morrison stood once again in Luna Station looking out at the stars. But now those stars represented a galaxy full of free worlds working together, rather than an empire built on oppression and fear. Ships from dozens of species moved freely through space carrying trade goods, cultural exchanges, and messages of friendship between worlds. The Galactic Federation had officially formed 3 years earlier, with Earth serving as one of many equal member worlds rather than a dominant power. The Federation's charter enshrined principles that humans had learned through their own difficult history: individual freedom, democratic government, equal rights for all species, the peaceful resolution of conflicts, the protection of the weak by the strong. Lisa Grant now served as the Federation's Director of Intelligence, coordinating information sharing between member worlds to prevent future threats to freedom. Her office received regular reports confirming that the last Imperial strongholds had surrendered, and their leaders were facing justice in courts staffed by representatives of the species they had oppressed. The galaxy is finally at peace, Lisa reported during the final briefing about Imperial resistance. The last Imperial admiral surrendered yesterday on the former capital world. After 800 years of oppression, the Zephyrian Empire has been completely dissolved. Every world is now free to choose its own government and future. Jake smiled as he remembered the day 6 years earlier when Lisa had burst into his office with news of an approaching alien fleet. Neither of them could have imagined that humanity's greatest challenge would become the galaxy's greatest opportunity for freedom. The aliens had indeed sent their fleet to conquer Earth, but humans had already won the war by refusing to fight on the Empire's terms. The victory hadn't come through superior weapons or technology. It had come through humanity's greatest strength, which was the ability to see enemies as potential friends and to turn conflicts into opportunities for cooperation. The Empire had ruled through fear and division, but humans had conquered through hope and unity. As Jake watched ships from 100 different worlds moving peacefully through the space around Earth, he knew that this was what real victory looked like. Not the defeat of an enemy, but the transformation of an entire galaxy into something better than anyone had dared to imagine possible.